Geoffrey's just one of the great actors. And
Please.
I read the script and thought, this is a hell of a double act. Actually, a triple act with this wonderful New Zealand actor.
I thought I was reading for the doll. I wasn't going to be carried around like that.
But Geoffrey and I, you know, we're very much theater actors who turned into screen actors, and now we do both. And these are great, long, dramatic scenes, and it was just marvelous to play them with him.
Same with James Ashcroft, the director. He started in theatre school in Auckland as an actor and spent, I think, a long time there. And then about 8 or 10 years ago, he decided to become a film director. He was so passionate about film as a form. And in that period, he made about 8 short films to apprentice himself to be ready to make a proper film, you know what I mean? Which he did with Coming Home in the Dark. I hope some people have seen that. It's on Netflix, and it's just a great genre film of dread. And so Jenny Penn was his proper second short story from the same writer.
And he came out of theater management at that. So he's very good at running the entire operation of creating a film, even though he's still pretty new to it.
That makes sense, yeah. And it's interesting that all three of you have that theater background. And we'll go into, there's a lot of things that the two of you
Do less,
have
do
in
less.
common. Do less?
Well, it's a big jump. You know, before I got into any films, actors would say, who'd been working in films, say, you don't, you just think, you just be. And you'd go, all right, that's okay. And then I'd be playing the Marquis de Sade or something, and I'd go, you can't say do less because he's an eccentric freak.
Yes,
you know,
I
you've
always,
got to play big.
I always tell directors right up front, I will way overdo it. Just so you have that, I fully expect you to tell me do less, and I will. But that way, you never know in the editing room whether you want more.
That's very true. So you can always dial it back.
Yeah.
Was there a time when you way overdid it?
Oh yeah, almost constantly.
There's no dial big enough for either of
The
us.
first time I was encouraged to do more was with the Australian director, George Miller, of all the Mad Max films.
Twilight Zone,
When I did the
was it?
Twilight
Yeah,
Zone
yeah.
movie, when I could never do enough. And until then, every film director I'd worked with had said, little less, John, little less. Suddenly it was, more, I want to see your face crack. You know, it's like and I said, have you ever got the right actor? I've been waiting for 5 years to be told that.
In Jenny Penn, you play a rather twisted guy. Mm-hmm. And this is not the first time you've played a rather twisted guy. What is it about these evil men that appeals to you?
I find them adorable. No. I'm a character man, you know. I play people very different from myself, and I guess by this time I'm on a short list of people who will do that if you ask them. And so they come at me with these fascinating roles. This one terrified me.
It terrified you.
Dave Creeley is a terrifying character. But it was too frightening for me to even accept this role until I spoke to James on Zoom. We spoke for an hour and a half, and he was just so. First of all, he's a wonderful man and a very smart man and sensitive man. But he told me about the serious intent of this film, that it's much, much more than just a horror film. Dave Creeley is a horrific character, but it's a film about cruelty and bullying and just savagery between people. I'm the victimizer. Geoffrey plays the victim, but it's
the hero, I like to think of it.
I of course, think of myself as the hero. I just make friends with these diabolical men.
In those early days in theater, what did you imagine your life would be like in your 70s?
My goal was always to put on my tax form actor. You know what I mean?
I was different. I did not want to be an actor.
Ah.
But that's because I was growing up in an acting family, a theater family, and I wanted to be an artist. Something equally unrealistic in terms of your future, actually probably even more difficult.
He's good at it. He gave us all a caricature of our
I still noodle, but I'm just a hobbyist now and a professional actor. But you know, my father produced Shakespeare festivals, and I grew up playing the kids in Shakespeare, and then the teenagers, and then the spear characters, and then the little roles, and Nim, Pinch, Froth, all the one-syllable roles. And by the time I got to college, I was an accomplished actor on stage by osmosis and fell in with the theater gang. And that was pretty much it. I sort of went with the flow and did not become an artist. I went to college and then off to drama school.
And both of you have had these moments where you're kind of catapulted into the spotlight. I mean, for you, John, there were two actually, but the first was the Broadway moment where you're in this play, The Changing Room.
Yeah.
It's your Broadway debut.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks in,
That's
you
right.
win a Tony.
I think I must have the record for the quickest wind sprint from Broadway debut to a Tony Award. And before that, honestly, I was close to giving up on acting. I couldn't buy any acting work except working for my dad, and I wanted to move beyond that and do it on my own. So yeah, Changing Room was a total game changer. And you know, I honestly, I haven't been out of work since. It's just been going from one thing to another. I eventually got into the movie business and had to sort of learn the different discipline of that. But to be able to go back and forth from theater to television to film and even to entertaining children and dancing with the New York City Ballet. I mean, I'm ready for anything. And if you do enough of those different things, then you're called upon to do lots of different things. And different things has sort of become my strong suit. But that's what a character actor does.
I got that news from Catherine Fitzgerald, who's the producer of our film from New Zealand.
Yeah.
I was talking to her and said, "Oh," she said, "John's dancing in the New York City Ballet as we speak."
He's not available for press. He's got to do a ballet.
Yes.
And Geoffrey, your
That'd be
reaction
right.
to that?
That'd be right. No, if you describe John, there's only one word for John as an actor: ubiquitous.
That's a little of me goes a long way, I might add.
I want to go back to the catapult moment, because Geoffrey, you had a moment like this also a little bit later in life. You were in theater until what, age 43, and it's your second feature film.
Yeah.
Is Shine, and you win the Oscar.
Yeah.
How did?
Well, I don't know. It still doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
No. But, you know, I started when I was 20. I really started when I was 15, because we at the high school I went to, all of the wonderful female teachers we had who nurtured us from grade school into year 10 or whatever, said, let's do a play. You know, and it was a sporty school. It wasn't an academic or a theatrical school. And then for whatever reason, they got married or had children or got transferred or whatever, and we said, let's keep doing it. We kept running it ourselves. And that sort of continued into university, where it was a very volatile time on campus in the late 60s, early 70s, very countercultural vibe going on, you know. The theatre scene was as prominent there as it was in the city. And then I got into a newly opened professional state theatre company, straight out of the exam room, basically. Finished on a Friday and started on a Monday. And I was lucky that I got to work in a company for 3 years, because that was sort of my official training, I suppose, on the spot. And that happened a number of times. for the next few decades that I'd be in a company, it's a good way to do it.
How did life change after Shine?
In some ways, I worked very hard for it not to change, but I was a very poor traveller, and I just went, okay, you've got to spin your head around into that and enjoy getting on planes, and with, you know, my wife Jane and I, we had children, babies at that point, and I just said, well, you know, a lot of my lifestyle is going to be on a plane, and it kept going. I mean, I couldn't predict that that was going to happen. I thought maybe this will stop and I'll always go back to the theatre. But interesting things came up, and DEI sort of stuff came up, you know what I mean? There were things that appealed, and I went, I'm gonna genre hop, and, you know, like, it's like in the theatre, you know, if you're doing 8 plays in a season, sometimes I'd be Dinner is Served, and sometimes I'd be Figaro or Oberon in them, you know what I mean? It was, you constantly, every 6 to 8 weeks, you'd be doing something new. And John so rightly said, we refer to ourselves as character. Where, you know, I was not a Juve lead, I was not a leading man, you know, except when you get to play Lear.
Yeah.
Then you're the
Which
leading
both
man.
of us
With
have done.
both of you have gotten to play.
So I think that's part of the attraction for this film, was we could start acting our age, because I used to be good at makeup from when I was 20. The Lashner makeup years, you know.
Yeah. Grease paint. We used to.
Crepe hair, spirit gum.
God.
I was playing, you know, I said to James Ashcroft, how old is this judge in the film? He said, how old are you now? I said, I'm 73. He said, let's make him 73. And that's the first time I played my own age.
Your
without
own age.
And,
all
but-
this stuff.
But
on
in
me.
Jenny Penn, the two of us are the youngest people in the cast.
Oh, yes.
We act with all these marvelous New Zealand stage actors, all of them octogenarians and up.
Nonagenarians as well.
Just
yes.
tremendous actors who all knew each other and had worked together throughout their careers. And they were so excited to enter into this world.
What do you think you gained from that experience with working with all of these older actors in this film?
Well, it was kind of gleeful. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole theater experience. I mean, I say theater because it was more theater than film in many ways, but this is a very confronting film. That's James's word for it. It sort of falls into 2 categories: psychological suspense thriller and horror. It is a horrific film with a tremendous compassion and point to it. But you just had, considering how dark the film is in so many ways, it was a thrilling experience just because it was such a wonderful acting experience. The man who burns up in the film is a great old actor and director in New Zealand theater. A world, of course, that I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
And I was just entering into it and joining their extraordinary ensemble.
Has there ever been a role that the guy sitting next to you had that you looked at and said either, wow, that was perfect, or, ooh, I wish I could have played that?
I don't know. I defer to an actor who does a much better job than I could possibly do in that role. I was the second choice for Hannibal Lecter. If Tony Hopkins had turned it down, it was coming to me. And there's no way I could have played that part as well as he did.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
Yeah, it's true.
That's good.
They had just offered it to him the moment I went in to meet with Jonathan Demme, who told me right up front, we're waiting to hear from him. And if it's not him, it's you. And I have no regrets whatsoever, because nobody should have played Hannibal Lecter other than him.
Yes.
And I feel that way about Geoffrey in Shine. That was his role. It belonged to him, and there's no point being...
What John doesn't know is that I got offered most of the roles that he's got first. No, that's not true. No, I had that experience with Colin Firth. There were scenes in that where I thought, I'm learning a lot now about being another actor in a scene, because I'm just listening.
In the King's Speech.
Oh, he would come in. We would have 11-page scenes sometimes, you know, and I'd say to the director, "Is this going to hold? This is a very theatrical notion of big, long scenes." And I said, "This is two middle-aged men sitting in a room talking a lot. One of them stutters. Is that a trick?" You know, but Colin was, I would just go, "Oh my God, I can't wait to see what this performance looks like," because in this room, a metre away from him, he was just so immersed in revealing the internal dilemmas and problems in that royal person's life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good, and it's a great way to dial back yourself. You go, just listen. Mm-hmm. That's what this is about. There's no acting required, as they used to say.
Yeah, it's been an embarrassment of riches. My acting partners over the last couple of years, Geoffrey, Olivia Colman, Ralph Fiennes. These are people who just give so much. It's like playing tennis with a better tennis player than you are. You know, you always prefer that because it ups your game.
Do you think that having, I don't know, that support at home, or do you think that a long marriage has anything to do with a long career?
Well, I am very, very grateful to my long marriage. My wife is the most important person in the world for me. We are very different. She's a professor and I'm an actor. God never intended them to get married. Our lives have completely different rhythms. We operate in different ways. She keeps my feet on the ground. She makes me far more disciplined, and I lend a little lunacy to her life. I mean, that's the difference between an actor's life and a professor's life. But it's just been a superstructure for me that I completely rely on. You know, I go off to New Zealand to do a film, New Zealand, and I can't get through the day without checking in with her 3 times. It's kind of an essential part of my life.
That's beautiful. Geoffrey, how about you?
Well, my wife, we met. She's an actress. So there's no professor actress excuse.
You both are in it.
Well, at least she understands what you're doing.
When children came along, Jane became, she kept working, but she really became a stalwart wife and mother to our 2 kids, who suddenly now, in being older, they're both kind of in the biz that we didn't think they'd end up in. Yeah, one theatre designer and one aspiring filmmaker. So it's great. It means you want a mentor as a parent, but also you can't help giving them notes.
And I've always thought it's very important to have something in your life that's more important to you than acting. Just because acting is a business that is so prone to disappointment, failure, rejection, depression, you have to have something else that sort of eases the feeling that, what's going to happen next? What's my next job?
A franchise, that's what you want.
So, you know, the most awful phrase is nobody wants me, and an actor has to be wanted, has to be hired. So you just have to have some other resources in your life.